to our latest episode of Impact Across Asia. This episode we'll be discussing our trans inclusion in the workplace research. So Bhavya, did you want to tell us a bit more about the research?
Thank you, Janet. This research is going to encompass the evolution of the trans community in India and the workplace policies that surround them. We are also going to be talking about the legal aspect which is related to our country, India, and also what are the challenges and the opportunities that they face. We are also going to acknowledge the role that D&I leaders, NGOs, and advisors have in increasing the advocacy and the awareness in this topic, because they have done such an immense job and the struggle has been immense. We are also going to be talking about some of the case studies from our corporates, and we'll be knowing their best practices and what policies that they have inculcated so that there has been an acceleration in this topic. We are also going to be having some recommendations, and it's going to be a conversation starter for companies to start adopting these attitudes, practices, and policies so that we can accelerate trans inclusion in the workplace.
Wonderful. So why is it so important that we shine a light on this from an Indian lens?
So we have 2.1% of our population which identifies as trans, and this data is actually categorized in 2011. So that is something which is very, not only the census is old, but also we see that this data is not even accurate for trans people, because they take all the genders from the spectrum, the LGBT spectrum, and we have seen them categorize it as the third gender.
Okay.
So we don't even have specific data for trans individuals. So that being said, we also need to look that in India is a diverse and a vast land. We have different cultures, and due to which we have to talk about the different intersectionalities that are present in India, and each of these intersectionality needs a deep dive. So that is why putting the lens on India is so important. Also, we also are going to be talking about the laws that are there in this land.
Okay.
And in 2014, there was the Nalsa judgment, which actually was the first time we started talking about it, and there was a positive change in India. So, and we see that 2014 is so late.
It's a long time ago. Not that long time ago.
Exactly. So we should have started this conversation a lot earlier. So that is why if we put the spotlight right now on them, we can start accelerating this conversation too.
Fantastic. So what's the purpose of the research or the outcomes that we're hoping to get from it?
So this research is basically going to be serving as a guiding document to the companies. We will be giving a few of the best practices. We have spoken to different stakeholders like NGOs, employees and employers, and we have found out the best practices that they have done and they have adopted in their organization. We have understood the policies that have worked and which have not worked from each and everybody's perspective, and we have combined all of that into this document. So we hope that this document starts as an action point where they start having these conversations for the best practices and policy changes.
Today I'm joined by Shankri, who's going to share her personal experience around trans inclusion in India. So what's the current situation of trans inclusion in India, Shankri?
Thank you so much, Janet, for that introduction, and thanks for the question. When we talk about transgender people in India, as I always say, it's the most visible community, and we can trace back from the cultural mythology era till now. But if we see around, the main issues with transgender people is around 50% of the trans people are disowned by their own family members and friends, which force them to stay them on streets and makes them more vulnerable towards and exposes towards the antisocial aspects of the societies. And very importantly, it's very hard for them to access any sort of education or skill building programs, which keeps them behind in the development spectrum. So it's very hard for them to get any jobs or any livelihood opportunities in India. If I say because of such circumstances, around 1 out of 5 people are exposed to abuse and maybe even violence. And around 42% people face mental health issues because I've always seen stigma and discrimination from family, friends, and overall society. Even at health, from the health infrastructure perspective also, they don't have any access to health services. So I think all these things still exist in India, but what we have seen is a few progressive changes from the government, and specifically after the 2014 NASA judgment, the Supreme Court advised government as well as most of the private entities also to define welfare programs for transgender people in India and see what can be done in terms of education, health, and socio-economic opportunities. How we can create a charter for them. So this is what overall the Trans Inclusion India looks like. And even organizations, for example, corporate organizations are coming forward. But I would still say that it is at the nascent, very nascent stage. If I had to say that from the LGBT umbrella, the trans word is still the most left behind from the entire spectrum, if I have to say that.
Okay, which is similar, right, to other countries.
Yes. Overall in the region also, we have similar data and similar experiences of trans people, I can say that.
Thank you. So Shankri, what's been your career journey as a trans person?
I think all trans people have their own journey, Janet. I think specifically in India, when we try and understand about our identity, who we are, where are we coming from, and start advocating in our family that this is what I am. But like every family is not forthcoming and accepting. So I think my case was also similar. Like my family was not accepting, and then I moved and started staying with trans people. And of course, my mentor, my guru, she was very progressive in her thoughts, and she told me that I should be completing my education and see that I should take up any professional courses and take up a full-time job to take care of my own needs. And she helped me. She really helped me a lot. But I would say that everybody is not lucky as I am to have a mentor like that, because many people are forced to do things which they don't like sometimes, just as a livelihood option. But I was lucky enough that I completed my education. I started working, I took my career and I started working with the Humsafar Trust, which is one of the pioneer LGBT organizations in India. I started my career working with them and slowly moved my ladder with private institutions, United Nations, to understand how do donor organizations work with the community and what is their business imperative when they are investing money in communities. And I think that's how I got this overall perspective. And today I'm very happy that I'm in a position where I'm tackling workplace inequalities, and of course I have mentors like CB, which is really helping me and giving me the platform where I can advocate and where I can see how we can bring in change altogether in the ecosystem.
And you do just such a wonderful job with it, Shankri. You really are. You really do.
Thanks, Shannon. Thank you so much.
Okay, so what is the positive change and opportunities for trans inclusion in India?
As I previously told you, it's in April 2014 where the Supreme Court gave advice that transgender should be recognized as third gender of Indian citizen, and all the welfare activities which are applicable for every citizen of India should be applicable for trans people. And that's how they advocated to government. They instructed government, in fact, that you all need to take steps now to build welfare programs for transgender people, be it education, be it employment, be it livelihood, or any other aspects of socio-economic development. But I think, but the journey of 2014 took long for the government even to understand what trans people, because for them also it was maybe they had different perceptions or different definitions of who are trans people, like picking up from the traditional to cultural to who actually gender non-binary people are. Like when people don't want to block themselves or bracket themselves into one category. So even they were struggling, government was also struggling. So from 2014 till 2019, government took time to come up with a plan for transgender welfare activities in India. It took 5 years to understand who we are. So I think that's a pretty long time.
Yeah, it
Like
is.
2014 to 2019, but nevertheless, the Transgender Persons Act was introduced in 2019, where government laid down a lot of policies for transgender people for their socio-economic development, and also instructed private institutions to open job opportunities, support education of trans people, and also said that and also prohibited discrimination against trans people at any level.
Right.
So I think that those acts have really helped. And when such government bodies issue such provisions for trans people, I think that's when even private organizations, corporates come forward, because that's the base for them even to start any policy or start any discussion with their senior leaders or investors or the largest stakeholder team. So I think the Transgender Act really helped. But again, I would say that it's still building. People are still taking slow steps when it comes to trans inclusion. People are still trying to understand who we are, where we're coming from, what our bodies are. So it's still at a very nascent stage, Janet. But still, I see that at least those discussions are happening. I feel happy about at least those discussions are happening, and I'm sure they will lead to somewhere. Some impact will lead to in the future.
Because that act is actually quite progressive in comparison to other parts of Asia, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. That's great. So, but a long way to go still.
Yeah, still a long way to go. I think because somewhere the pipeline has to be built, Janet.
Yeah.
Because what I see in my community is that there is people lack of education, lack of skills. Because if you see the data, around 42% of the trans people are bullied in schools. When people are bullied, they are not having a mental space. How can we expect them to complete the studies, right? So there is no education. People drop out of schools, and that's the main challenge. I think that's how I think we are not able to build the talent pool itself, because they are not able to complete education or take up any skill building activity. And when we talk about organizations, they would talk about if the candidate does not match with any qualification or skill, how would they provide job? So somewhere the talent pool is not there. Even corporates are ready to give jobs, but there are no candidatures because there is no qualification, there are no skills. And somewhere I definitely feel that meritocracy is the big elephant in the room. Like, of course, organizations want to hire high standard candidates from reputed business schools and reputed engineering schools, but then where do people like us will fit into?
Yeah.
Then we will always be left out, because there is no because there are no provisions set for us, because we are not coming from top business schools, we are not coming from top engineering schools. So if that's the criteria of inclusion, then we are always left out. We are always left behind.
Yeah. So with the Act, is there anything that's being done at the education level, or is that really where there still needs to be a lot of work done to keep the community in education?
No, at education levels, the Act clearly says that trans people cannot be discriminated at any levels in education institutes or private institutes or hospitals, or even at social justice. They cannot be discriminated. But somewhere the professors, the teachers need to be sensitized. For example, when I started my journey in college, I had to sensitize my own professor to make him understand why I'm like this, or why I'm different. Where I'm different, and the pressure showcases. Trust me, Janet. I think for me, it's not about competing with my classmates or my colleagues. For me, I have to compete with both men and women to surpass them and showcase that I'm better than them, or I deserve this seat in this class, or I deserve this job profile because I'm good, because I'm better than both of them. So it's for me, it's a different fight altogether. So when most of my women colleagues says that we have to fight this gender race and we have to be ahead of men, but then I think but I have to be ahead of both of them. So it's a pressure, it's a burden.
So just once again, so much more scope for improvement. And what tips would you give to organisations who are wanting to accelerate their trans inclusion journey?
I think very important, I would recommend organizations to have clear intentions when they talk about trans inclusion. Because as I previously said, don't go with the same rule book of qualification and skills. If you really intend to give us employment opportunities for trans people, I think it's very important that you give us skill building opportunities. You help us to match the job profiles what you're looking out for. The organizations really need to walk that extra mile
Okay.
to create that inclusion space for us, because the entire ecosystem, needs to work together over here. The NGOs, the community leaders, the corporate organizations, to see what kind of investments can be done in terms of education, in terms of skill building programs for trans people, because then only we will be able to match those criteria of job qualifications. If the investments is not there at the right place, you cannot expect trans people to take up high profile jobs, because everyone is not educated as I am, or or other people like me, because many people, I would say, that still have dreams and aspirations, but they don't know where to go, where to ask help, or whom to contact. So I think this is the entire ecosystem needs to work together over here, so that those opportunities can be created, that talent pool can be built, and we can work towards the prosperity of trans people, I would say that. Somewhere, I think, when we talk about diverse workforce, I think we all know why diverse recruitment is important, to create that diverse portfolio, because we all know, like, diverse people will bring in diverse thoughts and diverse ideas. So somewhere definitely there is a business case when it comes to trans inclusion. It's just that organizations need to tap this talent, think beyond meritocracy, and think beyond the traditional rule books to do trans inclusion, and then only it will be a success, I would say that.
Thank you. So Shankri, you're an amazing role model for your community. We're so proud to have you as part of community business. So thank you so much for sharing your insights today.
Thank you so much, Janet, for this question. Thank you so much.